Hey everybody, and welcome to Film Freaks TV. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with...
Presenza, known as the Moo Cow. Moo.
Alright. And we're also with...
Joe Turek.
And...
Alfred Crane.
Alright. So, this is our first episode, as you guys probably all know, if you guys have been following us for a little bit. We started out as a podcast, and then we kind of just decided, let's do a... actual TV series off of it.
Let's do it.
And so now it's become a YouTube show. We decided if we're going to do like the first one, because we want to do movies that like, Paul and I have different like loves for different films and everything. We want to kind of show each other different movies that we love, and we also sometimes love the same movies. So we wanted to do both. And today we thought for the first episode we'd do something we basically both love,
right,
and everybody here loves and everything. So I asked Joe and I asked Alfred if they wanted to come out, and both of them were like, yeah. Who doesn't want to see The Fog again, basically?
Because we're all freaks when it comes to John Carpenter's The Fog.
Film freaks, for sure.
Definitely.
And that's, basically how it happened with this particular episode, which I wasn't sure if it was just going to be me and him or we're going to have special guests, and I'm glad we got two of them. So there you go, for the first episode off the bat.
We also have Lady here.
We have Lady here
and Moo Cow.
And his
Little
Moo Cow. So there you go. Just for the show. He's our new mascot. There you go. So let's begin with, you know what? I would like to know, how did everybody first find out about this film? Do you remember the first time or anything like that?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I was a kid when it first came out, because this is what, 1979, 1980?
Yeah.
And so I was, not barely a teenager, but it came out, and I begged and pleaded, because I had seen and loved Halloween, which is one of the first movies I got to see in the theaters. And then so when this came out, I'm like, oh, I got to see this. Certainly the commercials, which would have been trailers for back then, made it look amazing. And I think my brother actually went with me, because I think my sister was too afraid to go, and got to see it in the theaters and was just blown away. Just have always loved it ever since then. So great film.
All right. What about you, Joe?
I was probably preteen, teen area, so early 80s, in like Halloween, Friday the 13th, that area of time. So it was right up the alley of that for me. It was sort of a golden age, if you will, of horror.
Oh,
films.
yeah. Late 70s, early 80s.
It was to me, it was a no-brainer as a kid, and watching it through the years and as an adult, it really holds up well to me.
Mm-hmm. Especially in Blu-ray.
All right, what about you, Alfred?
My dad told me about it. He had watched it. We were living in upstate New York in the early 80s and saw it on HBO. And I was like, wow, I mean, watching Escape from New York and The Fog on HBO one night with my dad.
Nice.
I remember when it came out on HBO. That was great.
I wasn't alive when it came out.
You were a zygote.
I was not even a glimmer in my parents' thoughts, because I was born in 1982 and this was 1980.
Yeah.
So I was, it took me 2 years. So yeah, I didn't watch it. I had heard, I think I'd seen the stuff at the video store and stuff like that, but it actually wasn't until sort of recently that I watched it. And I think it's because as a kid I was, I was terrified of ghosts and stuff. So I wanted stuff that was more kid friendly and stuff, which, to be honest, now looking back at it, now, nowadays, this would be a bit more kid-friendly. There's not really anything, it's terrifying scenes, but there's nothing super, it's kind of more like a, old school, old ghost story kind of thing. So it's not really something that I think would petrify a kid.
By today's standards, the violence and there's really no sex in it whatsoever. It's pretty tame in that regard.
Well, there was the Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins scene, but that was afterwards. You don't see anything.
Right, you don't see anything.
They're kind of already finished.
Sexual situation.
But I think watching the horror films made in the early 80s as maybe 12, 13 when I saw it versus watching horror films now for the 12 and 13-year-olds, it'd be like night and day.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And the thing is that movies today, it's like they feel like they have to show you everything. Mm-hmm. They have to be extra bloody. They have to show lots of, gratuitous stuff just because, in order to get the attention of teenagers. And that's kind of a shame because you really don't. If you do a movie that has great source material and great people making it, we're very talented. You can just shoot your movie the way it is, and it's perfectly fine. And this is a great example of that, because I can't imagine anybody from as a teenager today not enjoying this film.
Like, I think everybody, I think even you guys, some of you guys hadn't seen it in a little bit of time, and it still is to this day one of those kind of movies that kind of resonates with you a little bit. Like, you said something about that, Alfred, right?
Yeah, definitely. Every time I watch it, usually it's a few years apart, there's still scenes that I jump at. I still know what's going to happen, and I get like, oh my God, don't open the door. Do you see the guy behind him? And now I can appreciate for like the cinematography and like we were talking before the show, before we watched the movie, so much is left to the mind and the imagination, and that's a scarier place than being spoon-fed violence. And like a good story can trump special effects any day.
Yeah, well, my mind is definitely in a scary place.
I think watching it, it's like, I mean, you can watch it and sort of take in just the atmosphere visually, and that's scary in its own way. And then it's like, if you just listen to the score and just do that with your eyes closed, and it can haunt you.
Right, it's a fabulous, fabulous score without being too much.
Yes.
It was very, very well done.
And John Carpenter did the score just like he had done for Halloween, and I think Assault Precinct 13, and tons of great music. I think probably even The Thing, just everything he's put out. He's put out the music for it, and it goes really well with whatever.
Clearly, he's very, very, very talented. And like I said, we've said this is more of a traditional ghost story, and it's just the perfect way that he did it. And I love the addition of John Houseman's character at the very beginning, sort of setting the tone with the kids and sort of, presenting almost like a foreshadow of what's going to come, and setting it all up as like a creepy ghost story you might hear around a campfire when you're a kid yourself. And that's kind of really what the whole movie is. It's a creepy story told around a campfire when you're a kid, only you're watching it.
One of the things that's really cool about it, outside of some obvious timepieces, not clocks, but I mean like the cars and stuff, it's a pretty timeless movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's nothing really like totally dated in it. Yes, some of the car radio and the old station wagon kind of give away that it was made, but it's almost like a certain kind of music. It just seems timeless. Like this story can be told at anytime. It could be yesterday in an old town in California. It just the story's solid, the acting solid, the directing solid, the producing solid, and it just did a lot with a little.
Sure, and in 50 years from now, people are going to still watch this movie and say, wow, that was a great film.
I really think they should, I mean, and this is not saying anything bad, because the Blu-ray that we watched from Scream Factory did
nice.
Just a crisp look for it, but I really hope that John Carpenter puts it out on 4K too, because I think even then it'll even look even more amazing too, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I mean, I've had this movie on VHS, I had it on DVD.
Have you had it on Laserdisc?
I never had a Laserdisc player, but I got it on Blu-ray, and I would certainly get it on 4K if I were to make the jump and go up in that. But fortunately, it seems to get clearer every time it goes up, because I remember playing that VHS copy I had to bits, and each would get grainier and grainier, and how tapes would eventually start to fade. And DVD was better, but the Blu-ray is just fabulous. So they did a really, really great job. Especially a lot of the visuals. I noticed stuff that I hadn't really noticed before, just because the visuals are so clean. The blacks are really, really black. The colors are really, really, they're toned really well. There's nothing garish or oversaturated. It all just comes together really, really well. They did a great technical job with this Blu-ray release.
I actually have a video disc copy of it because I was ordering it on eBay. I thought the person who listed it lied, and I thought I was getting a laser disc, and it's a video disc. And if I can find it, I'll donate it to your guys' studio.
We will gladly accept it here at Film Freaks TV.
We are film freaks after all.
I know, we love that stuff.
One of the things you were talking about with the colors and all that was really crisp is I remember back in the day watching it, maybe recording it off of HBO or watching it on those type of formats, to where it would kind of blur the fog, stuff like that. But now it's, we were saying about how the
Oh,
crispness,
yeah.
stuff like that, and it was very distinct what was when the fog rolled in, and how much more character it brought. to it.
Absolutely.
Oh.
You mentioned it yourself when you said it was three-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, the effects looked fabulous, really did.
The yeah, and the glow of the fog, it just even looked even. I'd seen it because I just got the Blu-ray the other day, right, the Scream Factory one, but I had seen it on DVD, and with my friend when he showed it to me for the first time. So we were watching the DVD of it, and it looked cool, you know, like
Right.
it looked good, but when I saw that Blu-ray of it, like just today, the glow of the fog right there, the pans that they had, whenever they would pan from like one little thing to a person maybe or something, like a side of a building to a person, it looked amazing.
Right.
It blew me away.
The supernatural aspect of the fog is enhanced by the Blu-ray presentation. It really looks fabulous. I mean, it's like that in the DVD, somewhat muted, but it really comes to life in the Blu-ray. So if you are a big fan of John Carpenter's The Fog, I definitely suggest you go out and get yourself a copy of the Blu-ray.
Scream Factory for
Scream
20
Factory,
bucks.
I mean,
$20, that's it.
I
mean, that is
bought
so worth
mine
it.
as part of a double feature with another film. It's not Scream Factory, but it's still good. I imagine if you look, the Scream Factory one is probably a little bit better, in my opinion. Definitely get it. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Also, the special features on the Scream Factory one, we looked at one, which is Horror's Hollow Grounds,
That was
where they
cool.
show all the locations and stuff, and how a lot of them are still there, including some of the stuff like the cross
Mhm.
that you saw and things like that. That's just really cool. Like the fact that you can actually go to these locations and check them out. I just thought that was a pretty neat little like feature. So Sean Clark, great job.
Yeah, that was very cool. And I also wanted to mention the sound. The sound was crisp and clear. Every little bit, not just the music, but all the effects, the dialogue, everything sounded perfectly clear as a bell. So if you remember back in the day, the old VHS tapes would get a little scratchy, and sometimes sound would drop off, and you don't have any kind of worries like that. So again, if you're a big fan, you definitely want to see this on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I just think, echoing that, I mean, I talked a little bit about that earlier, the score. I mean, it's just, everything is so perfectly precise.
Mhm.
And this copy, I mean, I want to go out and run out and buy this version of it too, because it's just, it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. We're not getting paid by Scream Factory though. If you guys do want to, throw us a bone, awesome. But no, we're not. I just really enjoyed this, and we all did. Enjoyed the Scream Factory version of it, and was well worth getting it the other day for this particular release. Not because I wanted to talk about it there, but because I wanted a really good, look to it and
Right,
everything,
right.
and it came out really well done. I do want to mention, Alfred, you, so last year at Texas Frightmare Weekend, I got to meet Adrienne Barbeau,
Yay.
who was the amazing
Stevie
Wayne, in this, and she was so wonderful in the movie. But did you get your dad to have something signed, or was it you?
I got it signed from my dad. I wanted you to get one for me from Escape from New York and one for him from The Fog, because he really liked this movie.
What did you have her write on it?
The name of the station in Antonio Bay.
Yay.
Yes.
That's
This is
great.
Stevie Wayne, the station identification, and from Antonio Bay.
That's great.
Yeah, she was wonderful. She was just really sweet, and she had a line like you wouldn't believe because
And
she was so
thank you
busy.
for spending some of your valuable time to
Oh,
get that.
No, and well, I also got it sounds bad, but I got a free picture with it, so I was like, hey,
Nice.
I'm not gonna complain about that. But yeah, no, that was pretty cool. She was so sweet, and like everybody loves this film. Like, I mean, I've never heard a person say John Carpenter's The Fog, that movie sucked.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
Like nobody's ever really said that. I don't think.
And it's great because it's nestled in that great run of late 70s, early 80s movies that Carpenter did. I mean, Halloween, The Fog, you know, Escape from New York, The Thing, and They Live. It's like this great run of fantastic movies that, I mean, how many other directors are going to make a run, especially in horror films or you know, supernatural films, are going to make that kind of run? Not too many.
Yeah. Oh, Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China. There's
I
another
mean,
one.
there's like John Carpenter was on a roll.
Some of my favorite
Prince of Darkness,
movies.
I
Prince
mean,
of Darkness, horribly underrated movie. It's a great film.
I know Scream Factory did a bunch of these movies too, like put them out, and they, I mean, they all look amazing from what I've seen from each one, and that's just goes to show you that people just love to take care of John Carpenter's films.
Right. And shout out to Deborah Hill. She had a big portion of that as well.
Right. She co-wrote the movie with John, and I mean, and what I want to also mention was a lot of the characters were actually named after crew
That's
members
cool.
and stuff. Like there's a Tommy Wallace, there's a Nick Castle, who's like the figure in, you know, was it in The Shape in Halloween? Also a great director for like The Last Starfighter and tons of other stuff. But there's also Tommy Wallace, you know, a character named Tommy Wallace was the production manager for the film. I'm probably forgetting other ones. There's
A shout out to Vincent Price. Yeah, Dr. Fives was the doctor that was played by the gentleman who played Napoleon in Assault on Precinct 13.
Nice.
nice.
And I can't remember that. Darwin Johnson.
Oh wow, very cool. So there you go.
And then Rob Bottin, the special effects guy for The Thing, among other things, he's playing the ghost, the main ghost, Blake, and you know, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is in a few John Carpenter films. Her mother,
Janet Leigh
shows up in this. This is a great role.
She was wonderful too, but it was so strange. Like, I mean, you could see that obviously John Carpenter loved Hitchcock,
Right.
and had to, you know, when he cast. From what I know, like from different interviews and other stuff, research that I did, that John Carpenter originally it was down to Jamie Lee Curtis and another actress who was like the daughter of like the mother from Lassie, right? So it was either between them, and that girl had a conflict. She wasn't able to do it, so they had to go with Jamie Lee Curtis, who, you know, her big claim to fame was being the daughter of.
This is for Halloween, right?
This is for Halloween.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm pretty sure, like, because this was basically his next movie, The Fog was his next movie after Halloween, he had asked Jamie Lee Curtis to come back, and then she went off to become a huge star herself from, you know, before doing Halloween 2, she did Prom Night and Terror Train and stuff like that. So she had a row of horror films herself that
Right.
she was doing.
Right.
Not as big as like The Fog and Escape from New York and, you know what I mean, like
Right,
all
right.
that stuff, but still wonderful movies.
And it's great because Carpenter definitely has the people that he loves to work with. We're big fans of Nancy Loomis. Can't help it. She's absolutely wonderful.
She was great.
And great to see her in this. Great to see her in Halloween. Great to see her in Assault on Precinct 13. Just a wonderful, wonderful actress. Always great to see her. All kinds of other folks. I think
it
we
was
picked out a few.
Was it Charles Cyphers? The big bracket in Halloween.
Right.
He was the one who was calling into
Yeah,
the
he
radio
was-
station.
It was Dan
yeah.
O'Banion.
Yes.
And so it was a callback to Dan O'Banion, who wrote Return of the Living Dead and Alien and tons of other stuff. So
Tons of stuff. She's a great writer.
yeah,
And of course, the great character actor Tom Atkins.
Tom Atkins.
playing Nick Castle. So like wonderful.
Humanoids for the Deep, baby.
And what is it? Yeah, so there's just a ton of amazing it was a star-studded cast
Yeah.
in a way. And you know what? It didn't feel like that. You know what I mean? Like, even though they're all big names and everything, they felt like each person had their own individual story. You know, Adrienne Barbeau was like #1 on the list, but like even her, she's like separated from everybody pretty much throughout the whole movie except for like maybe 1 or 2 scenes.
Well, it
there's
still
time.
feels like a small film. It still feels like an independent film, even though it's really not. You know, obviously, John Carpenter made his bones on Halloween, was able to get all kinds of opportunities after that, but it still has that feel. You know what I mean? It's not overdone like you might expect a lot of movies, especially with directors who go from being independent to now all of a sudden having a big budget and having a big studio backing you. I guess they gave him as much control as he wanted, and he still made the kind of movie that he would have made, I would think, on the budget that he would have had. He just continued to do an excellent job with it. You know?
Sometimes budget isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Right.
Yeah.
All kinds of movies that we see that have big budgets that are just garbage.
They're overproduced, I think.
Right.
They just get that, and then they lose the magic that really carried a good story through.
Absolutely. And as far as acting is concerned, I mean, everybody here was really, really good. John Carpenter himself, actually, you get to see him play a role. I think that's the only thing he's ever done.
I think he was like a dead body and body bags and stuff like that. But like he really doesn't do. I was listening to the commentary because there's a wonderful commentary with him and Deborah Hill talking about the making of this, and he talked about how he hated it. Like he doesn't want to act. Like this just wasn't something he wanted to do, and I think he just kind of. I don't think it was because he couldn't get somebody. I think he just wanted to pull a Hitchcock and do something small.
And give himself some speaking lines, which is nice. And it's funny. He's kind of a skinny, wiry guy with long hair and a mustache and everything. And it's just cool.
He worked. It worked for his thing. Like my favorite line in the whole thing right there was, can I get my money?
Right. Can I get paid?
Can I get paid?
Yeah.
Why don't you come in tomorrow at 6 instead of 4? No, thanks.
Then he doesn't show up to work, and lucky him, he gets to evacuate from the fog.
Right.
Yeah, you never see him again.
Yeah,
And
very
he wasn't
cool.
one of the 6. And that's another thing I liked was that scene. One of my favorite scenes in that was in the lighthouse with the water coming down, and you see all of a sudden the title of the what is it, the
Six
Oh, yeah.
Six Must Die
Yeah,
instead of
on the
game.
driftwood.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it says Six Must Die. Then when she gets rid of all that stuff, all of a sudden it goes back to being.
Well, and that's what I really love about a John Carpenter film is that clearly there are supernatural aspects of the story, say in The Fog and Halloween, that they aren't going to make logical sense, and they're not supposed to make logical sense. This is supernatural, by definition. So this is, how is it that the ghosts are able to do that, manipulate reality during the day? Well, they're ghosts. They can do this. How does Michael Myers walk away after being shot 6 times? He just does. And I'm telling you what, I saw that in the theater, and when that happened, the entire theater freaked out. That hadn't happened before. And it was just an amazing, amazing moment.
Sadly, it's happened way too much since.
Right, it's a cliche now, but back then,
Yeah. Well, one of the things they showed in this movie, they didn't go overboard, hit you over the head with the suit. I mean, it was like the six must die, and then there was the 3 carved out in the morgue scene. So that gave enough information to us without sort of smacking us over the
right.
head with it.
And I mentioned that earlier. I was like, I love how Carpenter allows the scene to play out. He doesn't smack you over the head. He doesn't rush it. He doesn't, sign a big shot like that. He just lets the actors carry the scene, lets the thing happen, and it just plays itself out in front of you, and the audience is allowed to absorb it and sort of question in their mind for themselves, like, what's going on here? This is creepy.
And when the locations they chose for some of the shot selections, I mean, you just let it became its own character, like you were saying during the film, and I mean, just the atmosphere with that, it just added it and made it itself, and it made it more emotionally engaging at times.
Right. And it's cool. I like how some of the characters, the places that they were sort of mirrored who they were. So
Yes.
Stevie Wayne is kind of somebody who's by herself. She has her son, but she doesn't really interact with the others except as a voice on the radio. So where is she? She's always at the lighthouse. She's not really part of the town, even though she communicates with the town a lot.
And that one shot where she's just walking into work and walking down that long walkway and then going up the lighthouse steps and stuff like that is priceless. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It's almost like she embodies the outsider because she's saying it's Beach Chicago, wherever she
Right,
came from.
Beach
And
Chicago.
She's like staying in a remote house, and then at the lighthouse, she's kind of a part of the town, but keeps apart.
Right. It's like she's not quite in, and that kind of contrasts Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who's definitely an outsider, but she slides right on in there. She has no problem being sort of part of the town. She's part of, you know, of Tom Atkins's little family, and she even towards the end, you know, she gets very, very protective of little Andrew, yeah, so she has no problem just immediately, you know, sort of becoming a chameleon and belonging to the town, and she actually is in town. She's all over the whole place there.
It was interesting they never showed them two. I mean, there was never a scene with Jamie Lee and Barbeau
Right.
at any point, but it was still, with it being such a small town element, it was like they were truly still together almost, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was, I mean, in a way, though, Jamie Lee was in the car when they, like, you know, they want to listen to music or something. No, that was the other, that was Janet Lee. Janet Lee,
right.
and they want to listen to music on the radio. So, like, and a ton of people, like, that was, like, the thing that connected everybody was the radio, like,
Yeah.
telling everybody what was going on. Like, this is where the fog is coming and all these little things. And that's, in a way, that's how, like, the main character of Adrienne Barbeau's character, Stevie Wayne, can actually be, you know, with everybody
Right.
without being actually with them. So I thought
Right.
that was kind of a neat, like, little thing to it.
Then we have that great moment towards the end when you finally have Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee Curtis together in the same scenes, which is
Right.
really, really cool.
Yeah, with the church and everything. I thought that was pretty neat. I just, it would have been really funny if they actually put more, like, I know that, I'm glad they did it in a way, but, like, it just would have been kind of cool if they put some more, like, nods to the fact that they're mother and daughter, like, even though they're not, like, they you know, some kind of line about it, because it would have been kind of funny, you know.
Isn't that
but,
when they did the tongue-in-cheek, not in this one, but like, wasn't it in H2O or Halloween? That they did that, where they had the scene where they cross each other, and they made that little nod, but I understand exactly what you're saying about it, if it would have fit in here somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, a little nod and a wink. Yeah.
I like how they respected the audience too by not giving us the whole story. Like,
Right.
movies nowadays, you know, it's a crazy guy on the loose, you know, and then we fill it all in. But this, we get clues as we go along. It's like, why do these three guys get killed in this ship? Why do they look like they drowned? You know, why is there three? Why is there six? You know, what? And it unfolds as we go along, so it's not like, oh, he did it. Oh, it's a ghost story.
Right, and Carpenter does it in such a way that he allows the story to set up everything without pushing it. You know, the night before is almost as important as the night that the ghosts come back, because the night before sort of sets it up. You know, weird shit's happening, doors are opening by themselves, and lights are going on.
Now that is a good question that I have, and maybe I missed it or something. But so the guy's explaining the story, you know, right, to the campers, you know, and stuff like that. And then we go up and we see, you know, it's 100 year or whatever. It's the day before, right? And those people that died the day before, and they disappeared at 1 o'clock or whatever, right? The fog disappears at 1 o'clock, only an hour, you know, or whatever. But my question is, it hadn't been 100 years yet. It had been the day before 100 years. Like, shouldn't it have waited until, like, you know, for this? Like, what made that day so?
Well, Pacific time is always 3 hours behind or something like that.
Oh, you're giving that way too much credit.
Well,
But I think it's just, that was just a, you know, just a storytelling thing that they kind of maybe messed up a little on. And that's my opinion. I mean, and you know what? If you guys have an answer to that, whatever, that we might have missed that up, you know, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know, but
Maybe it was because it was 100 years, so they came and were going to do it that night, and it didn't happen, so they had to return the next night.
Well, I think it was
Until
the
they got-
100
until they got
years.
to 6.
The anniversary was of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
I think so much as the deed itself. The conspiracy happened, and then the deed happened the next night. So you know what I mean? 100
Right.
years anniversary, maybe it's of the conspiracy.
That makes sense, because like John Houseman says, it's midnight, it's the witching hour, it's 100 years. And then it goes into the next day, and then I think they're not waiting till, I think they wait till it got dark. I don't think they waited till midnight again to come back.
yeah. But why is the town is the town celebrating the 100 years of
It's like
the town,
it's a-
right?
I think it's a
Right.
centennial
The town.
It is.
So what? And so okay, so it was a leper colony, right? Like that was what this whole thing was.
Well, it was a
They were
leper
trying
colony
to
a
serve
mile
it.
away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was an establishment there, and then these guys came off of another island and said, "We're gonna just move over here. We'd like your permission to do that." And they're like, "Yeah, no. We're gonna instead conspire this evening with my friends, and we're going to pretend that we're all cool with this, but really, we are going to lawyer to your death, so you're not going to know about it, but we're going to take all your money because that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's almost like you wonder if John Houseman was like a ghost-like figure because
Right.
you're just sitting, the fire in this very spot.
Or
Much like this one tonight.
or maybe one of his ancestors is actually one of the actual conspirators,
Yeah.
Was it like, was he telling them the day of or whatever, like the day before or something?
I think
like
the day
it's
before, I think
Right.
because it was like he was rolling into midnight, which was the day of the anniversary.
Right.
Well, I think his was sort of like the old campfire element, telling the ghost stories at the campfire type of thing, so. And I believe that scene was added to this at the end,
Yeah.
because it wasn't part of the original cut.
Well, now my only thing about it is that it seemed to me that Houseman's character had a little too much information in his story, because a lot of what he talks about is actually what's going to happen. So A, how does he know that? And B, shouldn't somebody have already foretold that? If you know that much ahead of time, shouldn't you be kind of looking out ahead and said, okay, hey, it's an anniversary, they say the dead are going to rise.
Yeah, but like,
You know
who
what I mean?
believes that? Like it's one of those things where you see all these horror films or TV shows or something where they go and say, like, the dead are gonna rise. Like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen.
There's always that one crazy old coot who knows what's going on and warns everybody, and
Yeah, you
nobody
made
listens to
that
him.
joke during it.
Yeah, because we were watching it, and they kept saying it was cursed, and I was like, it's a death curse,
Right,
like Crazy
right.
Ralph in Friday the 13th,
And the funny
also
thing is-
done in 1980.
Yeah, exactly,
Right,
that's what I was
right.
getting ready to say.
Hey, and Father, was it Morgan or Moran or whatever his name is?
Malone.
Malone.
He figures it out. He just figures it out too late, but he believes it.
Oh yeah, you can tell he believes it because he's freaking out the
He's
whole
also
time.
a drunk, so there's part of that too.
Which you said you didn't remember hearing that or whatever, remember
Yes.
catching that.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis walks in and says, "I hope, let's pray Father Malone's not in his cups."
Oh, Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the two guys who believe it or expect it or at least understand or know about it are the two guys who are drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Houseman's there going gulp, gulp, gulp,
Yep, exactly.
which is funny.
It was, it's one of those films that, like, you have to watch multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just watch this
Great.
once and then go, okay, I get the whole story. Like, it is one of those things where you have to, and for me, I have to talk to you guys about it sometimes because I still, to this day right now, since I've only seen it twice, I don't really know all that, I'm trying to
Right.
kind of learn more about
And
it.
the journal is a great device for helping to explain the story, to provide exposition. It's also a little bit convenient that the guy who caused all this writes this as a sort of confessional. We had this thing and we conspired and then I tricked everybody, and I'm not going to give spoilers, I guess. But if you haven't, you need to see it. I mean,
If you haven't
that's
seen
the
it, we
whole
probably
point of this
spoiled
show
it
is
already.
is to tell you to go out and see this film. So you definitely go and see it. But
I'm pretty sure
you know,
anybody who's watching this
Yeah,
probably has seen
yeah.
it. I mean, I would imagine.
But as far as his confessional goes, I mean, it's nice that he's able to provide all of that information, what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a little too convenient, but it's okay.
One of the things you were talking about is how you just recently saw it for the first time, and how I saw it like when I was a lot younger, is seeing a movie like this, and this is the first time I saw it in a number of years, but seeing it over time as through life experiences and stuff, you sort of experience it in a different context. So seeing it when I was 12 years old, I see it much different now. Being a bit older, I can sort of take my life experiences of everything that I've been through and sort of
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it on different levels. And since it's been a number of years and I'm still wondering a few questions myself, I want to watch it again. I want to
right.
experience some different things
Oh,
and
yeah.
see some different elements of it again.
I mean, when I was 14, 15 years old, saw this was just a creepy ghost story that scared the shit out of me. Seeing it now, I'm able to appreciate it on many, many other levels at the same time. But still
Exactly.
enjoying it as a creepy movie. And it's weird, but we're all wearing glasses. Did you notice that?
I did. I did.
Nerds!
noticed it. Yeah. I noticed it earlier. I wasn't going to say anything, but.
Film freak
all
nerds.
right. Well, there you go. You look like you were going to say something, Alfred.
Well, one of the things that's cool about this is carry on the John Carpenter signature of like the movie Is It Over?
Right.
It's like it always is like, okay, we made it through all these obstacles and all these near-death experiences, and then all of a sudden he throws something at you. It's like you come to expect it, but they're different in each movie.
Right,
And
right,
it's
right.
pretty cool. It's like, is it over? Does it end? And he usually never makes a sequel.
Ambiguous endings are sort of his thing.
But I
does-
like that extra piece in this one.
Right.
That extra piece right at the end, because it's sort of, it fits the story, it fits
Yes.
the character involved at that
Yes.
moment. And I really like that, even though it does, you were going to say ambiguous and stuff. Go
Yeah,
for it.
and I like that too, because Blake gets his gold, he gets what he wants, but he also gets a little payback. He wants that sixth victim.
He wants that sixth victim, and the thing is with that, yeah, John Carpenter never usually wants a sequel. Halloween 2 was never supposed to happen.
No.
He was only gonna. He thought, like, originally his idea was, if we're gonna make a Halloween movie, we'll make a different Halloween each time, which he did with Halloween 3, because that is completely different than Halloween 1 and 2.
Slightly.
Yeah, oh,
Very
yeah.
different than 1 and 2. There's no Michael Myers in it, and he never wanted Michael Myers. He didn't want that. And so if you ever watch any of his other movies, The Fog got a remake, but never got, which I've heard is awful, and I haven't seen it yet. So
I tried to forget it, and looking at a couple things for this, it brought back some bad memories.
Stop remaking John Carpenter movies. Just stop.
that's not gonna happen.
The only
so,
sequel
but-
he made was Escape from L.A. I think that's the
Yeah.
Less said about
And
that, the better.
that's also
Yeah.
another one we don't talk about.
There was so much anticipation for that one too, because
Yeah,
I
I
was in the
know.
movie
I
theater
saw it
at
in
the
the
time,
theater,
and so
and
many
it was
people were there, and
so
and
disappointing.
then it was just like,
Yeah, it's so
I mean,
sad.
it wasn't to me, it wasn't an awful film, but it wasn't obviously up to even this close to the standards. that
I had,
supposed to be.
my expectations were up to here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there was some news recently, so I guess this is going to be topical or whatever, but that John Carpenter is coming back to directing horror.
Yay.
We don't know if it's going to be for film or TV. So he has thought about coming to do TV,
Right.
but I kind of hope it's for film, because the last one, The Ward, wasn't very good. I don't think. Like, I feel like it was just kind of lackluster.
I have it. I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's just kind of lackluster. It's just not like up to the Carpenter standards. And, you know, it would be nice. I mean, I don't know if you'll ever be able to get back to, like, you know, something like the original Halloween or something like that. But, you know, if he's able to do that, awesome. If
Well, you know, again, a lot of it has to go back with Deborah Hill, and the relationship that they had together, the creative relationship was just amazing, and that's gone now. Now it's just himself, and you know, I mean, I'm sure he can still direct and make a good film, but it's just, I don't think we're ever going to get the same kind of movie that we got with the two of them were producing.
well, unless he finds another good creative
Yeah.
team, you know, or whatever. But anyway, I mean, like, The Fog was just, I mean, I almost think The Fog is, like, perfect.
I agree.
Very close to being perfect.
Yeah, there's not. I don't think when we talked about Continuity Monkey on our show Indie Film Cafe, there was no continuity issues that I noticed. If they are there, they'll be in the goofs section of like IMDb, and those are like things that you wouldn't notice unless you're watching it a million times and looking
Yeah, like
specifically for
the
these
cup
things.
lost this much of the drink or something.
Yeah,
On the
exactly.
bar or something.
Right.
You know, so you wouldn't notice these things unless somebody.
Although, you know, today, I don't know that too many people are going to be going and answering a door in a dark night with lots of fog where someone's going,
Well, unless
not
they're-
today.
Let's say that was it the Dan O'Banion character or whatever, the Charles Cypher's character, where he heard the fog, he saw the fog outside, and he thought somebody was messing with him
Right.
and everything. When he heard the door, he was like, "Okay, somebody's." That actually seems like something that actually would happen, even though they're being warned not to go outside. You know, in
Right.
human nature, we say that's kind of stupid. You know, like, you know, what is this? Some kind of stupid horror movie? You know, it's
Yeah.
generally like the line. And then, you know, in a horror movie, that's when you get attacked.
And you know what? That's a good point. Especially these early Carpenter movies, they're really not meta, and I'm glad. I'm so sick of self-referential bits and pieces of movies. We've done that. We've gone past that. Let's get back to movies, especially in horror films, where they're just not doing that anymore. Where they're just tell a good tale. There's nothing meta in the fall going on at all, and I love that. You know, it's refreshing, honestly. So, you know, enough of the Scream kind of movies. I'm done with that.
Oh, well, I like the Scream movies, but whatever. I'm a millennial. Sorry, that's
I
my.
like the first one.
What?
First one, the second one were okay. Then I don't think I watched them.
It just, I can never get over killing Randy in the second one. That's just sort of, to me, but obviously there's,
Hey, they brought him back in the third and fourth.
that's true.
I mean, he came back. I forgot how they did it in the fourth, but maybe they didn't do it in the
No,
fourth.
it was the third.
I know they did in the
to
third.
me, I mean, it's, you know, the reason those movies are there is to, you know, to be very self-referential, meta, commenting on movies that are already established, that are better than them, but movies that they're never going to be as good as, so they reference them all the time.
Oh, stop it.
You know,
Wes
so,
Craven directed Scream, whatever.
yeah, I know.
Wes Craven and John Carpenter are two of my favorite directors. So I don't want to hear.
Very, very, very different type of directors.
Nightmare on Elm Street, baby. I don't care. I know we're talking The Fog, but that movie, oh my goodness, just as good as The Fog.
And I guess we could talk a little bit about the special effects. We haven't really touched about that.
Well, sort of we did, but like, yeah, you're right. Rob Bowden did the special effects.
Tell me those shadows weren't the creepiest fucking things you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, especially that first shot when they're out on the fishermen, the first three who die are out on the boat in the middle of the ocean, in the darkness, surrounded by fog coming in, and all of a sudden there's this massive ghost ship, like inches from their boat. Holy shit.
That was freaky.
Comes out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden these black shapes with the red eyes and the weapons.
Red eyes.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that was creepy.
It looked fabulous.
Which today it would look like crap because they would do special like CGI or something. And today that would look like bad, but the fact that these were practical effects that people made, you know, or whatever, it just blows me away that they were able to do something so creepy. I mean, get back to that. That's what I want.
Right.
That's the kind of movies I want to
And
see.
it's interesting because we kind of had a discussion with regards to what were these shapes? Were they ghosts? Were they zombies? Were they both? Were they neither? You know, I guess in the end they're ghosts, but unlike other ghosts that can't physically touch you, these definitely could, at least at this particular time, at the witching hour, on this particular anniversary, you know, that they have purpose, that they can all of a sudden come back into being and affect reality the way that they do.
Well, this is another thing that I was thinking about is, okay, so they bring the one fisherman to the morgue and everything, and he comes back to life or whatever for like a little bit, then falls down, which I never, because they saw him, all of a sudden he fell, that didn't make any sense.
Well, they're fucking with them. That was just another example of that.
Well,
the
maybe,
ghost
but-
messing with them.
I think that
Almost like
warrants
a-
another viewing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because what I was wondering about also is like that character, or those characters, does that mean that all of the ghosts that the three fishermen who died, are they and somehow like also coming in with the fog?
I don't think so. I think they used that guy like a puppet because
Yeah.
the whole point of that isn't just to fuck with them, but it's for him to put that 3 there.
Okay, that's true.
That's why he's
okay.
there.
All right, because
And maybe get number 4, being he was trying to kill Kurtz's character.
was he? I don't know. Like, I
grabbed
think
the
if he
knife.
were, he would have tried.
Yeah, I don't think he was trying. I think
You don't think so?
it was sending a message
I think they were sending a
Yeah,
message.
saying,
That makes sense.
we got 3, there's 3 more.
I think that maybe if she had turned around and saw him, he would have just said 3 and then
Right.
fell. But unfortunately, they caught him before he got to do or whatever anything, so he fell, and they just it just spelled out 3 on the.
Now, my favorite thing about that scene is, how the hell do you explain that? You can explain most of the other things that happens in this film. How are you, especially as the guy in the morgue, how are you going to explain this guy getting up, taking up one of your scalpels, walking a couple feet, and then dropping and scraping a 3? How the hell can you possibly explain
You
that?
see the doctor, he's looking like, how the hell am I going to explain this?
Write that one down.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, you can't. So, and that's the
Right.
great thing about this movie is
Exactly.
like there's so much supernatural stuff happening.
Without being crazy about it and without, completely destroying the laws of physics.
And also without giving you like total exposition throughout the whole thing.
Right.
You only know what the one guy told you and what the houseman's character told you and what the ghosts are kind of telling them or whatever.
Right.
And I don't need all the background. It's like I
Right.
like the ability to fill it in and just be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Just
Right.
why did that happen? I don't know, but it's pretty
You don't-
cool. And it's,
Yeah, you don't need this. Well, and there was the Father Malone character who did kind of like throughout the thing kind of tell people
Yeah.
what he read from the journal, but it worked. It didn't feel like
Yeah.
he was just giving them exposition. He was learning these things as the audience was learning it, and I think that makes the movie like more interesting
and it
because
heightened the game.
Right. So,
Exactly.
these ghosts, they have certain powers, but they only have these powers because of this curse. And this curse is only as powerful as it was because of the betrayal that these people did. And now, in order to break the curse, they have to go through this whole thing all over again.
It's
Now,
almost
here's
like
the thing is, my question is too, supposing Father Malone had not given them the cross, what, would they have killed the six and then gone away? Would they have come back another night? Would they have
I think they
continued
would
to
have
go?
come back 100 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that broke the curse of 100 years. However, or did it? I mean,
We
it's
don't really
never-
know.
Yeah, you don't know.
It-
But I mean, that's my theory, and that's this is what Hitchcock actually explains as was icebox conversations. These are things that people can have like conversations about as they're going to get food in the to the refrigerator together. They start wondering these questions. They start saying these. John Carpenter was really good at doing that, like throughout all his films. Like just you said about Halloween, even that little thing of like, how did he get up? Like, how did that? Like, is he still around? Those little questions that he leaves you with, wondering about. By the end of the movie, you're still wondering, is this like
Right, and it's definitely something that I thought about because really when you think about it, Blake and his ghostly crew really have two things that they want. They want that 6 victims, but they also want their gold. But you don't know that they want their gold until Father Malone reads all that through. And then it comes down to, well, do they want one or the other or both? Turns out he wants both.
It's almost like Brigadoon, where like this happy town comes into life once every 100 years in Ireland with Bing Crosby, except this time you've got these revenge-crazed ghosts who only take human form once every 100 years.
maybe that was his inspiration.
Well, I think
Yeah.
another thing about stuff being explained or not explained, the idea of they were stuck in a mystery basically with what is in the fog and stuff like that. But think in
Right.
real life, I mean, when you say your memory, your mind's in a fog and stuff like that because you're not sure of what's going on. So I think that could play on sort of a parallel
Ooh, I like
idea
that.
with this film.
That's
On a
cool.
couple levels.
I wonder if that's a little bit of why they chose fog.
Right.
Because like there is that my biggest question too when I was watching is like why did the ghost? Remember I even asked like are the ghosts controlling the fog or what or bringing the
Yeah.
fog in?
It's all part of the curse.
I know,
Yeah.
but like did they die in a fog? Like why did
They did.
they did? Okay,
Yeah.
so that totally makes sense then for
Right.
it. But like that's the thing, you watch it and you wonder like, okay, is this what
Yeah, the original fog was just happenstance. That's why he says that when Father Malone is reading it and he's reading the guy confessing about it, he says, it's like, this fog rolled in as if sent from heaven, although God had nothing to do with it. So that's the reason why they ended up crashing on the rocks in the first place, because there was this thick fog and they set the light and they followed the false light and hit the rocks. So now that they're dead and they want their revenge, the fog is now part of that curse.
I
So
think-
they utilize
Yeah,
it.
and I think a lot of this conversation is what makes movies like this so special, is that you see something not just for what, if you just want to go out and have a good scare, this is that. But if
Right.
you want to look at it for more, for the atmosphere, for the music, for the
It's
acting,
also
for the story,
that.
it's that. But it also has other elements that you think of on multiple levels. So it's like you can go back and have a repeated viewing and you can
Right.
think of it.
Right.
And it's not, they didn't do this to kill this and that was it. There was also, what was really going on? Was their history? What was going on with all these different characters and stuff like that in their respective lives, as well as the unified effort, if you will, to try to survive.
And the other interesting thing to me is that it didn't seem to matter whether the victims were, relatives or the ancestors of, or their ancestors were the ones who were the conspirators. They seemed to be happy with whatever 6 they got. Now, Father Malone happened to be one of them, but the others, they were pretty much happy to take whoever.
So what would have happened, because they were coming after the kid, they were coming after Andy at that one
They
point.
were.
If they had killed Andy, then that would have been done, right? Because they only needed one more.
I think so.
You know, so would they have? I wonder if they would have gone away, or I wonder if they would have stuck around. I mean, not stuck around, but like come back another 100 years.
Well, yeah, that's probably what would have happened. They would have come back because they didn't get their gold. Now, the other weird thing is that Father Malone seems awfully ready to sort of sacrifice himself. You know, he's
a drunk.
He's a drunk, but you know, I've been drunk and I've never wanted to give myself up to a bunch of ghostly revenants.
He was a bit aged too, and maybe he was just, I mean, beaten down by life.
He's,
possibly.
you know, he's carrying this guilt that really doesn't belong to him. I mean, I understand it. That's what Christianity and Catholic Church is all about. It's all about guilt. But he's got a little too much guilt. He had nothing to do with what happened. His grandfather did, but why does that mean he has to pay the price for it? Just because he's related to him. Like I said, the other 5 people, they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, like I don't think they did, but maybe they did. Maybe the ones that they were going after were actually answers. That was never explained.
But the
However,
kid, remember, came from Chicago. That's where Adrienne Barbeau had come from.
yeah, and then they go after her too. Like they went
Right,
after her.
right.
They could have killed her too.
So it would have been interesting had they chosen only the people who were involved in the original conspiracy. However, the reason they don't do that is because what are the odds that every single conspirator actually had progeny afterwards?
That's
they
right.
may not have had kids and continued on.
Or they might not have been in that town.
Well,
Right.
there was many other townfolk that night that didn't get terrorized or saw.
Oh yeah, they were smarter. They saw that fog and said, "I'm not going out in that
I'm out."
shit. I'm not answering that door."
One of the coolest scenes in the movie for me was when the fog first rolls in and the guys in the trawler see the Elizabeth Dane come by, and it's just like, that is so friggin' cool.
Oh yeah.
Seeing this old ship and the 3-masted ship go by, and they're like, what in the hell? You know, they're loaded, and they're probably like, am I sober or am I not? I just thought that scene was just so cool.
Classic bit is the ghost ship. And that's just one of my favorite things, you know.
I love those.
Like if you look at some of the early Dracula movies where, you know, Dracula comes over by boat and then by the time they actually, you know, comes back to England and it's a ghost ship because everybody's on dead because he's eaten everyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool. Or you see these, you know, the old time ghost stories where these, you know, these ships come out and find ghost ships out in the middle of the sea that have ghost crew or skeleton crew, and or they find ships that have been drifting with. Can you remember the story that he told, Tom Atkins' character told about his father, where they found food that was still warm and, you know, nobody was on board, and yet the metal cup, even though it was still hot, was rusted to the table. You know, very weird and unexplained supernatural stuff.
And it was like salt water.
Right, Mary
Water,
Celeste.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the salt water, the scene where he like he takes a little sip. He's like, it's salt water and
Right.
everything.
It's
I don't
like,
know.
it's dry in here.
Yeah.
right. It was very cool.
Oh
Very
man.
creepy.
It was great. There's just everything in this movie was fantastic. If you're a fan of like old school horror, but also with like more to it, you know, like just very more in deep kind of talk and everything.
More intense suspense as well.
Oh my goodness, the suspense in this movie just. I mean, it
Builds,
made me bite my nails sometimes.
builds,
Like it was.
Builds.
It really did a good job of like
Yeah.
you didn't know, even though I'd seen it like maybe a couple months ago or something for the first time, I didn't really remember much. So it was like kind
Right,
of cool.
the pacing was really cool. You know, that whole first night when all the really crazy stuff's going off, you almost expect Heather O'Rourke's character to pop in and say, "They're here," you know. Little foreshadowing, something's coming.
Well-
Something wicked this way comes.
I think Lady is telling us that it's time to wrap up. I think this was a great first episode. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. If you guys like it, give us a thumbs up. Tell us. Find us on Twitter at FilmFreaksTV. I think, does everybody have a Twitter account? Do you have one?
I do. I just haven't used it.
I have one. I
You're
rarely
not
use
alone.
it too. Yeah.
You have one too?
I have one as well, and I haven't looked at it in a while. I mean, I go on there just to
Where is she?
follow Twitter, but
She was just.
Oh, lady, you are a tramp.
Oh, you little girl. All right. But yeah, so thank you guys for checking this out. Check us out on Film Freaks TV on Twitter, Instagram, and I think we're also on Facebook.
Right.
Also check us out on, let's see, I think we're on YouTube. Obviously, you're watching us on YouTube. So check us out on there. And let us know what you guys think of this
Yes,
episode.
please leave comments. Let us know what movies are that you are a freak about. And
Yes,
maybe we'll talk about them.
We'll discuss it, and maybe it might be one of the next episodes or something, because we are looking for new ones that everybody, like we said, like there's some that he loves that I might not have seen. There's some that I love that he may not have seen,
And I get to pick the next movie.
and he
don't I?
gets to pick the next one because I picked this one.
Just not Fog remake.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Don't
we
ever
were
worry
talking about
that.
ones we love.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, we don't want to, and not to diss whoever made the Fog remake, you know, or whatever. It just wasn't. It literally, people have said it was one of the worst remakes that people have seen.
Yeah, just stop remaking John Carpenter movies. Just don't. Don't bother.
Nah, that's
I know. People are going to
probably
do what
gonna
they're going to
happen
do.
anyway.
They're going to do what they're going to do, but just
Yeah,
don't
it's
bother.
gonna happen anyway. We can't stop it. But we can say thank you guys for checking this out.
Absolutely.
And please go buy the Scream Factory version because we
Blu-ray,
are
definitely.
Yeah, the Blu-ray and I hope it comes on 4K at some point. I'm sure John Carpenter is working on
And
that.
I'm telling you what, watch this movie at night with the lights off, and
Oh my
I
goodness.
guarantee you, you're going to get a chill. It's fabulous.
Yes, we all got a chill and we're all hanging out together. So thank you guys for checking this out. Bye.
Bye-bye.